Hello and welcome back to Talon 101. This time we're gonna talk about a move that used to be in right foot forward. It got moved to right Flamingo stance this time. That's right, that's RFF down 3-3, or if you remember it's right foot forward input, that was RFF down back 3-3. So now it's now here in right Flamingo, giving right Flamingo a very safe low option. Probably safe with quotation marks, because the opponent, if they do block this, they gotta think about that second hit coming their way, because if they wall standing forward, they're gonna lose. Of course, they can OS it with like a down jab, sure, but it's like, do they want that reward? So let's deep dive on what this safe low can do for Hwoarang in right Flamingo. So again, as always, you gotta look at the moves one by one on paper. So this is a 15 frame high crushing low. That's right, you heard me right. This is a 15 frame high crushing low. So if the opponent does decide to jab right after, you'll pretty much win the interaction. So if that's Steve, he wants to back one there, he wants to back one your Flamingo, tell him no. It does its job from like right foot forward, carrying it over to right Flamingo. So it's a handy option to replace the snake edges that they have not replaced in left Flamingo. Left Flamingo's still waiting for its snake edge replacement, but right Flamingo stance got its replacement as early as the release day. So again, it is -5 on hit and is -13. So if you're playing against Kazuya, that's a launch. But for the most part, it's -13 with quotation marks, because again, if they attempt to punish and you were like, oh, I'm ready to let it rip, yeah, they're gonna get hit by the second hit. And lastly, this move is +2 on counter hit. However, there is no indicator whether you are +2 or whether you are -5. You are left to figure this out on your own. So your experience will dictate whether you are +2 or you're -5. Because there's no visual indicator, there's no audio indicator either. So let's focus at a +5 scenario, right? So if you do get this move to hit, what can you do, right? What can you do? I mean, naturally, one thing you can do if the opponent decides to challenge you right after this is that you can down jab. Yeah, that's right. You can be really greedy to keep your turn. You can do either down jab, down 2, or down 1 to keep your turn. However, again, that's going to be a 15 frame down jab. So if they decide to throw out a mid in this situation, well, you'll lose. Because all they have to do is just do their fastest mid, whether that be 12 frame mid or a 13 frame mid. But if they do that, however, right, you actually can power crush. Ah, that's pretty cool. Of course, you can only power crush up to I-12. So you can challenge 12 frame moves, which is great. So if you're playing against Reina and she does 1+2, you're playing against Kazuya, he does 1+2, you're playing against Kuma, Panda, they do 1+2. You can pretty much save yourself the trouble and power crush. They will not get punished for it, they'll be completely safe, but you're giving back the same amount of damage in a sense, because it's gonna be on top of like recoverable chip damage. So that's like the power crush. That's the power crush you should be doing. You can do backlash, however, I wouldn't recommend it, because they can like easily react after they do their DF1. If I can even get backlash here, there you go. See, it's like it freeze. That's a long freeze time. So it's just like one DF1 duck into while standing 2-3, too easy. So that's why we go for double claymore in right foot forward in this scenario. And of course, the last thing you can use is movement. Of course, this movement option, the movement will always depend on like what option they're throwing out. So if their option does lack tracking towards a specific side, then that's when you can like step there, even if you're -5. But most options probably would be catching you at +5. So you may want to employ the power crush challenge more. But of course, if they are doing a jab, then you can't employ the power crush challenge. You're going to get interrupted straight up. I mean, if you can bring the gameplay straight to a power crush or a down jab and keep your opponent in that kind of tempo, then yeah, that's going to be in your favor. But the other thing is that this move does track pretty well, mainly towards the left. So we use a normal situation, like let's say +3, boom, you're fine. Like it 100% tracks towards Hwoarang's right. So again, that's sidestep left. So if I change this to sidewalk left, and we're still at +3, easy. Now, sidestep right, though, is a little bit of an asterisk because even against good sidesteps, this may win. Of course, Hwoarang's on the worst end of sidesteps. But it also, like, may lose. Like that. See? That's weird. So, I wouldn't trust it as much versus sidestep right. However, if you are +5, right? And that's whether doing it off RFF 2.4, RFF 4, or RFF D+3, then yeah, for the most part, it's like a pseudo homing option at that point. So that's against sidestep right. We're gonna change it to sidewalk right. And then we're gonna go back to sidewalk left, or sidestep left. So yeah, at +5, if you weren't sure, you can easily just like lock them in with RFF down 3. Yes, it's a low. They can still low parry. They can still low crush. But if they're just gonna stand block or they're gonna potentially sidestep and you didn't know, and you were just like, I don't know if they're gonna step or not, that's a safe option to do. So that's pretty much everything about the first option, RFF down 3. Now let's move to the second option, the second hit, the one that will keep them on their toes, which makes this move, in quotation marks, of course, safe. So that's again RFS down 3-3. And this is only a combo on counter hit, and you get nothing. So it's not like, what do you call this? Counter hit RFF 4-4, where you get a guaranteed FF3 or back 3. Same thing with backlash. No, unfortunately, you get nothing on counter hit. You only get Oki, which is, I guess, decent. But I mean, it would have been nice if we did get like an additional follow-up. Maybe because it does a chunk of damage, but that's hard to argue when RFF 4-4, backlash do also a chunk of damage into FF3. So if there's one buff this move could receive, is that it does get the guaranteed FF3 or back 3. Again, this move does not jail, so if the opponent does react to it and they're very, very patient, you're just gonna whiff just like that. And this move does do some chip damage. Interesting that this move does chip damage, just like LFS back 4-3. And it's also -2 on block. It's like, -2. I can do something with that. That is correct. Yes, you can do something with that. So if the opponent, let's say, does decide to challenge again with a jab, you gotta space this out to test this. So naturally, again, down jab. Because you're -2 this time, that's gonna be a 12 frame down jab. And if you do it off down 2, that's gonna become a 13 frame down jab. Is that a bad option? Because if they do their 13 frame mid, their DF1, well, you can either win, or I believe you would be trading. Yeah, like so. But I mean, if you're always just going to be doing the faster down jab, you'll be winning in those situations. The other thing is that you can do movement. You can employ movement. You have more room to employ movement because you're only -2 instead of -5. So that's just a backdash against a shorter mid. And then, of course, since they're slightly off axis as well after blocking it, just like backlash, that gives you more room to like step towards the other side, because that moves, it didn't even realign. Like, look at Hwoarang there. Let's do it again just for good measure. Look at that. He's like still looking at one side and you're right on his left side. And of course, just like on hit, you can power crush, and you can power crush up to 10 frames. So if your opponent does decide to do a basic jab, you're fine. You're completely safe. Like, let it rip. The only thing that would beat you in this scenario, again, would be a grab or a low. Which is like, if they're not pressing that option, continue pressing on the attack with additional chip damage, or cancel it and then let them know that they're in the blender. So yeah, that's pretty much RFS down 3. Pretty interesting low. It could be a little bit better, but for what it's worth, Right Flamingo receiving a safer option to work with is a brand new experience for most Tekken 7 Hwoarang players, because the Tag 2 Hwoarang players, they had that for the longest time. So we're kind of back to it, but it's in a weird spot. But I mean, it's still good. So again, that's been the lesson for today. I've been Frontier, and thank you for watching.